The biggest mistake I made in my business was not hiring a professional to help me with my money. Not just my taxes, but the actual plan I had for my business. I was completely lost on how to handle taxes, what to do with profit, and how to maintain my income. I had to find a better way. That's when I found Core Financial. Core Financial is a team of tax professionals that actually care about building real relationships with their clients. They run my books, keep me up to date with my finances, and make sure I'm taking full advantage of all of my tax benefits. Are you struggling with your finances? Look no further. Core Financial is a brand that is nationwide that can help you with your business. Both Nick and I are huge fans of Core, and they can help you too. Check out howtofilmweddings.com/core to schedule a consultation today. Core Financial, real relationships, no surprises. Hello and welcome to How to Film Weddings. It is a new week. John Bunn here, joined by the one and the only bearded good buddy, Nick Deep Nuggets Miller. Nick, today's a big day. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Just it's a really busy day here for us at How to Film Weddings. John and I have like 4 different things that we're doing, plates spinning on all sorts of hands, but things are going well. We're doing really, really well. I'm excited about today's guest. This is our first guest interview that we've had in, I don't know, quite a while. And I'm really excited to jump back in here and do that. And today we have Madeleine Burgett of Films by Madeleine. She's incredible. You definitely want to go check out her work if you want to be inspired and stuff, but don't compare yourself too much to her. She talks about that a little bit.
Yeah, I found her a year or so ago, and she's just this like quiet little filmmaker, just off doing her own thing, kicking butt, taking names, and making incredible wedding films. And I was just like, we have to get her on the podcast. And when we were out at Venture in Denver last year, like this girl kept winning awards at the Venture Awards, and it was like, I know her name from somewhere, and she was there, and I didn't realize it was her, and I'd been messaging her, and so I was like, you have to come on our podcast. And so we twisted her arm, we begged, we pleaded, and she joined us today. And so we talk a lot today about how she uses her emotional intelligence to tell stories. We talk about, she's only 2 years into her business, and she's got her brand on point. So it's a great episode. It's full of nuggets. I say we just jump on over into this week's episode.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Madeleine. You are here. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Films by Madeleine. Why don't you take a second, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you are, and maybe a little bit of how you got into this crazy wedding business.
Yeah. So thanks for having me. I've been listening to your guys' podcast for a very long time and really appreciate all the content you guys put out. It's super helpful. So honored to be here. So I started filming weddings. Well, I guess the dream of it kind of started long ago when I was like back in high school. I don't know, 10 or so years ago. And I always wanted to, I discovered that I had a really like big inkling in me to create emotion, if that makes sense. I really love the, like, I'm an Enneagram 4. And so emotion and feelings, I feel like I've been that my whole life. I can remember, ever since I can remember. And so I, in high school, loved to make videos. I was like always wanting to create different videos. And I ended up making this one for our high school that was like, it was like celebrating people. And so I went around to like a bunch of different people in the school from all different social groups and kind of just had them like write down like a word about them that they felt like people viewed them as. And then I had them erase it and kind of write like their name to kind of just celebrate who they were. And that was the first video that I created that I really felt like, holy cow, this is like so beautiful to be able to celebrate people and make them feel seen and understood. And I noticed how it connected with other people who watched it. And I was like, okay, cool. This is fun. I love this. So head into college, still kind of had that dream. Well, I saw my first wedding video in high school and I was like, I want to do that. That's so cool. And just loved like seeing marriage celebrated in that way. So college, I ended up, a friend of mine knew that was a dream of mine. And he was a wedding photographer in San Diego, which is where I went to school, originally from Oregon, but now live down in San Diego. And he was like, hey, I know this wedding video company's hiring. Like, do you want to interview for them? And you could intern there for a little bit or for school. And I was like, yeah, totally. So ended up applying there. It's like a more volume brand down here in San Diego where they film, I don't know, over definitely between 100 and 200 weddings a year. So started filming there, and that was a really great way to kind of get my foot in the door because I had basically like a built-in mentor in the owner of the company, and was able to like go and assist weddings with them and like get trained like logistically, like how do you film it? Where do you go? What cameras should you use? You know, all of those things. So I did that for about 3.5 to 4 years. I filmed for them, ended up becoming one of their main videographers, main editors, still fully like contracted freelance work. And by that point, I was kind of like, man, I really because it's a volume brand, there was kind of like a template, obviously, for like editing. Like I could say, I don't know, we all kind of probably have like a little bitty templates in our head of kind of what we run through. And I kind of started to get a little bit like trapped in that, editing for them, and really just wanted to like get to know each couple more, like, because I would just show up to the day and just be like, hi, I'm Madeleine, like, nice to meet you, I'm here to film your wedding. And I really wanted the like personal side of it, of like, man, we've been connecting for months, we've been excited to work with each other, you love my personal style, like I connect with you, let's like create something beautiful together. So I just decided to slowly ease out of working for them and started my own business, which I started. That was a long-winded story. Wow. So to answer your question, okay, cool. To answer your question, I started Films by Madeleine in 2019. It was kind of like a softly started over a year though anyways, just because even before I like named the business and started to really hone in on it and take it seriously, I was filming, people's weddings for too cheap and just to kind of get my foot in the door even more. So so I started it in about like May of 2019, and my my full year was 2020, which was a little cray. So that's a bit about me and how I kind of came here. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, yes. No, yes, you did. You did. That was great. Cool. So you're in Southern California, right?
Correct.
That's Southern California. We saw you at Venture. I don't remember which session it was. I think it was the first one because John was there this year. And during the Venture Awards, you won some stuff, like multiple awards, I think, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but as we're sitting there and we're watching this, like we just saw your work, and John and I were both like, okay, this girl's special. Like there's something about her films or something about her work. That's, I think John like messaged you that night, to like talk
I'd already
been
messaging her for months before.
Okay.
Anyway, I've been slowly working this to get her on the podcast.
John plays the long game, and he is the one that, talks to people. I just, sit here with my pretty face. As we watch, some of your films, we were just totally blown away by the style, kind of the storytelling that you were doing. doing and all that kind of stuff. So why don't you just, take a second and I think you kind of touched on it, but what do you, love about the wedding films, creating them? And then what would you kind of say your style is, for your films that you do?
Yeah. So let's see. What do I love about weddings? I think, kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but the biggest thing for me is just creating a product that fully celebrates other people and their unique vibe, if that makes sense. I love to, the past, few films that I've delivered, it's been really life-giving to be able to give them something that they feel like, oh, this is totally us. Which, that it's just really life-giving. So I love that a lot. And I also just love, I was always really inspired by home videos growing up and just really small moments that wouldn't really mean anything. I don't know. It was just my mom walking around following me for an hour with her giant camcorder, but I would sit and watch that forever. And so I think just being able to give something like that to somebody is really special. And as far as my style goes, I think creating something that leaves space is always what I strive for. I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm I guess you could say moody, but I also feel like I like to create kind of more fun videos too. But I definitely gravitate more towards moody, emotional films, mainly because those are the ones that I feel like can leave a lot of space for really emotional moments.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm trying to figure out when I found you or how I found you. I'm always, searching the internet for who is out there doing new things, and I just am always inspired by people. And I think I messaged you I want to say it was almost a year ago at this point, and just was just so you know, your films are rad. They're really good. And then we were at Venture, and I was like, I know that name. I know, I hadn't put two and two together that you were there and had been there, and you're more soft spoken. Well, at least at Venture you were, and it was why didn't you come say hi to me? And you were just well, I'm sorry, I didn't know what to say. And I'm just
that was the first big people outing I had in a year too. And
sure.
I just remember have you ever had all those palm the face moments where you're come on,
never.
There was so many of those moments there, and I left and I was I think I saluted you at one point.
You snooted me?
I take it back. If I could take it back. Saluted?
Oh, you saluted me.
Salute.
I don't remember it. Darn it. I would love to have remembered it. It's always funny. But yeah, so during the Venture Awards, I went to go look you up on Instagram, and I was going to send you a message. And I had already messaged you a bunch of times. And I was oh, this is the same person I've been messaging. And so I just remember having been by your website, looking at, yes, there's a mood to it, but you for sure know who you are. And you're speaking to a specific audience. And I love how you have everything laid out. I love how your films, I love the flow of it. I love your logos. Everything about it is just right. And so, I mean, we'll give you a chance here in a little bit and link it in the show notes for people to go look at your website and your work, of course. But knowing who you are this early in your business is really impressive. I know that you did work for somebody else, but I would love to kind of talk about believing in yourself as well as being confident in the kind of couple you want to serve. How did you get there? How did you get to knowing, having such a brand on point this soon in your business? You're not even 2 years old in business at this point. I'd love to know kind of how you got there and hear from you on just talking about believing in yourself and how you've gotten to this point.
Yeah. So, that was quite the journey. I think that's why it took me so long to actually like say, I'm going to do this, was because I really struggled with that in the beginning. Like, I'm quite the perfectionist. I'm a 4-wing 3, so kind of like on the Enneagram. Can let my perfectionism almost like paralyze me sometimes, which can be good, can be bad. And yeah, so I think I kind of didn't really think like, oh, I'm not good enough to launch yet. I don't want to, put anything out. I don't want to put anything to like a brand that I'm not extremely proud of. And that I wish that I could go back and be like, just do it. Like, just go back and like start it, like figure it out, and it'll work out. It'll be fine. But yeah, there was actually a point a few months before I like launched my business. I was offered a full-time job at that company. And it was very like, I really thought about taking it just because it's security. I don't have to like think about my business 24/7. And
Sure.
Yeah. And I ended up turning that down and saying, you know what? No, I'm going to try to pursue this solo thing. And I'm so thankful that I did. It was definitely one of those like leap of faith moments. But I'm really glad that I did that. And I think that moment and kind of just all of last year was kind of a really big, opportunity for growth for me to really see my work and say, like, okay, like I can do this. Like I think I definitely lean towards the side of like trying to be more humble than like overly boastful. So
Me too. I'm the same way. I'm the most humble.
yeah. So that I think was kind of a hurdle to get over as well. But yes, ultimately just getting over that, like, I'm not good enough, like, voice in my head, and taking that step to just make it happen and trusting that it would work out.
So, okay, my wife is a 4 as well. Mm-hmm. And what I'm learning, as a 3, and sorry to all you Enneagram people, it's funny how Nick has gotten me into Enneagram. Dig it, Nick. But like, I am the outspoken achiever. That's all. But like, I love personality. Obviously, my wife is a 4, and so like, I love her personality, and I love the calm confidence that a 4 has, and they don't want to be in front of people. So this is probably really fun for you, and things. But like, just, I remember seeing you at Venture, and you were so just like, you didn't want the spotlight, and everybody's like, you're so good, and you're doing, and like, I think that there are a lot of people out there that find themselves in that are an Enneagram 4, or somebody that doesn't want the spot. Like, that is such a unique gift to be able to be a storyteller like you are, where you're not like this, like you don't want to be this big star of the show on the wedding day. Like, you're looking for these moments. You're a deep thinker. You care a lot about like, real moments, like no fluff. You're in like, or at least this is what my wife is like, but like, authenticity is so very important in like making something perfect. And like, that all bodes really well to what I saw on the screen and I do see every time you put out a film. And I'm like, if I could ever just focus that hard on a film, but so there's this gift that you have by being that. And I wanted to kind of shout it out from the rooftops to everyone listening, that if that is your personality and you've ever been made to feel like, well, I need to be more of this, like, don't, just lean into who you are and believe in yourself and who you were created to be. So
totally. Yeah. Yeah. I think Venture was actually one of the first times that I really, really was like, okay, like maybe, I have something here. It's working. Yeah, I think that was a really special moment for me to be able to like be in a room with a bunch of people that I admire and that know the ins and outs of all of this, and to be able to connect and hear their feedback was really special. So, yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to believing in yourself, whenever you're self-employed and you have your own job, it can be very, very lonely. Like, you might have, your spouse or a business partner, or, someone that you can kind of bounce ideas off and talk to. But for the most part, it's, just kind of you in your head thinking, and so that's a real struggle, I think, with a lot of people in this type of industry is we really wonder about that because we don't have, a community or people, where we can talk to. If you go to a day job, you have other people that you can share ideas with and you're like, oh, okay, I know I'm on the right track. I know I'm doing the good thing and all that stuff. So you talked about, you were giving it your best, you were doing, the best thing that you could do. And then, whenever you were around all those other creatives, it kind of validated those thoughts that you were worried about, for so long, right? Am I good enough? Yes, I am good enough. And here's kind of this proof about that. So, as you've, been working over the last couple of years, what do you take it to mean to be, giving it your best? Because obviously that's what you've been doing. So what does that mean to you for you to like put all yourself and give yourself the best, do the best that you can do?
Yeah. I feel like for me, I really put a lot of emphasis on, just really focusing in on each video that I'm working on at the time. I don't have a very good, I have a very, I can focus really hard on one thing if I put my mind to it. So sometimes I'll be working on a film for just one film for days at a time, just making sure that I love the music. First thing, I spend hours on just finding the right music and making sure that it flows good. And I love taking pieces from the actual day, any music that they sung at the day and kind of incorporating that in. And I just love things like that. And so I kind of hold myself to a high standard, I guess, of just I want to do the best I can. I don't know if that fully answers your question, but it's just a mental thing for me. It's just trusting in myself and holding myself to kind of that higher standard. With that being said, I think I have learned a lot about putting too much pressure on myself and trying to put too much pressure to every film I create needs to be this oh, I want to watch it over and over again. This will be a portfolio piece. And I my husband has had a lot of conversations with me where he kind of grounds me a little bit and is no, that's not you can't do that. That's, you just need to tell the day as it happened. And, but yes, I think giving it my all kind of just means holding myself to that high standard to just give the client what they deserve in my mind. That I think motivates me a lot is to be working, knowing that I'm serving my client and working for them. Yeah.
I love it. I think that, when you're talking about giving something your best and your all, I think as business owners, we have so many different things going on, when we can't focus, on one thing and doing it well, and realizing that it's okay that not every single time you shoot a wedding, it's going to be something that wins you an award necessarily, and just trying to give it your best for the couple. That's huge. So I love it all. I love this conversation. We've got a lot more to talk about, and we're going to do it right after this break.
What would you take on if you had an extra set of hands? What would you do with your free time if you didn't have to edit? So many of us get bogged down in the post-production hustle that we never seem time to focus on our business. John and I both felt that way. until we found Wedditor. Wedditor is a post-production team of top wedding film editors and project managers that give your films and brand the extra eyes, ears, and hands that they need. Not only is Wedditor delivering films we love to our couples faster, but we can invest ourselves fully in other areas of our business knowing that Wedditor has our back. Be the first to know how your second shooters are doing, how those new LUTs work with your footage, and relax knowing your couples are getting the full attention they deserve on every single project. So what could you do with an extra hand? Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/Wedditor, whether you're ready to start now or preparing for next season. Be sure to use promo code HTFW for $50 off your first project. If you're interested in this service, make sure you head over to howtofilmweddings.com/Wedditor soon. Fall 2020 spots are lined up and filling up fast. Wedditor, more than freelance, more than outsourcing.
Finding the perfect song for your wedding film can be so frustrating. We spend countless hours searching for the perfect song. When it comes to licensing music, Nick and I both love MusicBed. Not only do they have the best music, but their website makes it so easy to find the perfect song and to find it fast. We've both been using the MusicBed's wedding subscription for years and cannot recommend it enough. Not only are they adding new music from incredible musicians like Chapters, The Light, The Heat, and Tony Anderson all the time, they've made it incredibly easy to search their library for mood, genre, instrumentation, and even key. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed and use promo code HTFW for a free month of a MusicBed wedding subscription. howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. And we are back from break, and we're going to start this segment with our question of the day presented by Wedditor. Wedditor, more than freelance, more than outsourcing. We asked on our Instagram page yesterday. I don't know if you guys follow us, but if you don't, just search at How to Film Weddings. You can find us. And we had a couple of questions come in that were really good. One from Wildwood Films and from Lucy Cameron Films, asking pretty much the same thing. And I want to know this too. They want to know, what is your storytelling process? Like, how do you go about laying out this story or figuring out this story? Give us all the juicy details.
Yeah. Wow.
Getting ready to take some notes. Okay, just go ahead.
Man, that's a really tough question to answer. I feel like, I don't know if you guys can relate to that, but like it's such like a feeling thing for me. Mm-hmm. There isn't really like a logical, like, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. Because I used to do a lot of that like logical editing, still feeling based, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Like template, and like, you know, I have one song and like I know that this part of like, you know, the intro, I'll do like some like establishing shots, and then like I'll go into like the getting ready in the verse, and then, you know, that was kind of what my mindset was like before. So I think that's kind of where sometimes I challenge myself a lot to like step out of that. I think I do my best to avoid that. I'll say that. Which is not like, there's still a template within that. It's just different every time for every client. So yeah, so I guess the process kind of begins well before like I'm filming the day, with just communication with them, with the couple, and hearing like their vibe and what they, you know, their vision is for their video. I love to ask that question, kind of just like to hear their expectations too, for the pacing and like all of that. So when I am filming the day, I love like storing away like little things in my brain of like, oh, I loved that moment. Like that moment was really emotional and beautiful. Like I really want to like elevate that in their film and make that, give a lot of space for that. So for example, like, I filmed an elopement in Mendocino in August, and that couple was supposed to have their whole family come to this like super cute like glamping tent vibe in Mendocino. And his family is from England, so obviously because of COVID they couldn't come. And same with her family on the East Coast. So they ended up just doing it themselves, which was a bittersweet thing. I think all of us can attest to that scenario and that having happened this past year. But they really wanted to like incorporate their family. And so that was kind of going back to that process even before we start to film or before I start to edit, that communication with her, hearing, okay, she really wants to incorporate her parents. How can we do that in like a creative way? So then I said, hey, what do you think about like having your parents send like an audio recording to you or a video where you can listen to it? I know you're going to have a campfire. So like maybe we can like sit down and kind of make that a moment in and of itself on the day. And I asked her, obviously it's all suggestions, never like dictating what needs to happen.
Sure.
And she was like, yeah, I would love that. And so we ended up doing that. And I knew when that moment happened, I was like, oh, this is really emotional. Almost too much emotion. She got really emotional with it. And I ended up taking that into the editing. When I started editing, I was like building off of that, basically, that one moment. I had another film where I was like one of my very first films that I did, and my husband got a really cute video of the grandma just like sitting in the living room. And she just was talking to the camera. I think she thought that she was supposed to be talking to the camera. And so she was like, it's going to be a beautiful day. Like, this is going to be, like the Lord's here, all this stuff. And I picked that moment and I was like, oh, I need to build off of that. Like, that was so like feeling and just all of it, all the emotions. And yeah, so that is like a big like overarching theme that I kind of bring into each edit, is just picking out on the day, having that like mindset of just being aware of those like grab your heart type moments, and building the edit off of that. So yeah. And then a big thing for me is music choice. I'm sure all of us can agree with that. That can either make or break a film completely. So when I find that moment and then I kind of find the right song that fits their vibe, fits the dynamics of the day, that piecing that together is like one of the most life-giving processes like in editing, is just like when you figure out the storyline, you're like, this is it, like I did it. Yeah, that is really fun. So I love to do that. I love to try to incorporate a few different songs in there, and with that kind of making very seamless transitions in between those moments and those songs, with like, I don't know, focusing on the key that they're in, and like if they're in like a relative key or the same key. And yeah, that is it, I guess.
Yeah,
I like it.
Great stuff. It's one of those things where, your storytelling process, and I think all of us have a pretty good idea maybe of what we want to do in the editing. Like even before we shoot the wedding, we have these ideas and that kind of stuff. But one of the things that we do too in our business, like you're saying, is as we're filming the day, we might have an idea, but we're also taking in the day. So you really need to marry those two ideas together, right? So that you can, maybe we had this idea of what the wedding day would be like. And there was this, we want a high energy, video, it's fast cuts and all that stuff. But as you're there on the wedding day, and like this wedding day isn't a high energy, fast cut kind of wedding. Or maybe they're like, we want something super emotional, but they're, a silly, you kind of have to just take it all in. And one thing that, we wanted you to talk about a little bit was, kind of emotional intelligence. And that sort of, and I think that you're pulling all that stuff together, to do that. So how does that emotional intelligence, and you can talk about what that means a little bit, but, in your brand, but also in the films that you're doing, like, how does that work together?
Yeah, that's huge. I think that is like a huge theme for me in like my communication, my brand in and of itself, my, films is just having that emotional intelligence and being able to, when I say emotional intelligence, I just mean like being able to read the room well, and like one, in the way you communicate and the way you present yourself. It's not about me, 100% not about me, which I am glad. Like, that's not my jam. I love making about others. And so that is kind of when I show up on the day, just reading the room, kind of entering with like a calm presence. I don't ever want to be too, I don't want it to focus on me. So whatever I have to do with that and just sit in the back, film what's happening. That is kind of how I bring that into the day. And also kind of going back to that moment where I had the bride listen to audio of her parents speaking to her. There were a few like times in that moment where she was really, really like upset. Like, it actually turned into like her being really sad, which I was like, this is like not, this is a real emotion, totally fine. But like, I don't know if I want her to look back at her film and be like, that was a sad moment. I wanted it to be more of like, oh, I'm glad that they're here. And I remember when we were there, we were like sitting by the campfire, and I just turned off my camera when she like started to, she was getting really emotional. And I was like, I wouldn't really want like a camera in my face if I was like really getting emotional. So I kind of shut it off and just like talked to her for a little bit and was like, hey, like, man, like how cool that you could hear these words from them. Like, I totally understand like that, this is really hard, like validating that emotion for her. And kind of just guiding that moment to like bring it back to like, how beautiful is this? Like that you're here, and like, and letting her feel that, but having a goal of like, all right, we need to kind of, I don't want her to feel super sad right now. And just reading that room and understanding what she needs, and what whoever you're filming needs. That to me was a moment where I was like, okay, I was proud of the way that I like kind of just let that moment happen and understand that, like, it's not my doing to like change how she's feeling completely. But anyways, that is kind of an example of that. But I think within my brand too, it's just kind of this mindset of always kind of carrying that like calm presence and not making it about me. Did that answer the question?
I think that's really good. I'm sitting here being challenged like by what you're saying. And I think a lot of times, especially new filmmakers, are so worried about their gear, so worried about the lights, so worried about getting the perfect everything, that they're thinking only about them and they're not seeing what's obviously happening in front of them. And that's a huge takeaway. And a lot of the times, like what you said, like just turning your camera off, being a real person, helping them soak in a moment and feel what they're feeling or whatever. Like when you get to that place with couples and with brides or grooms or family members, or if you can just like, I'll make a relationship with the father of the bride, and just like we have this thing, and like I'm a father of a 10-year-old girl and a 4-year-old girl, and it's like that's emotionally connecting, and I can just start having a conversation with them about, my girl is in 4th grade, and they're, oh my goodness, I remember my girl in 4th grade, and she was a soccer player, and she did this, but like emotionally connecting with them and not just putting them through a template. Like that is the difference. And I think like I talk a lot with different people in the industry. I was just talking, I think it was with Henry Martins the other day and he was talking about people asking him how he edits. And it's like, you can't teach that. You can't like teach how Madeleine does these edits. You're teaching like, but we can show people that like they need to be like emotionally aware of what's going on around them. So that way they can be aware of these special moments and not just thinking it's either A or B, but like it could be a C option or a D option of how you present this story, and not just looking and trying to steal other people's ideas. And that's what's so refreshing about you and your brand.
Yeah, John, that was a really great point. And I think that one thing I know when I started Madeleine, you're talking about this girl that's, listening to this letter from her parents, and this woman, this bride, listening to her parents, and she's like getting like really, really emotional. And I think that if you are not as in tune with that, like you're still going to just, I need to record this because it's so emotional. And like we see it as gold, because there's lots of crying because, right, that's a good wedding video, right, is people cry. And I think that it takes just a little bit of maturity and expertise and just kind of being around a little bit to know, when you should do that, when you shouldn't do that, when should you push it? When should you pull back? I remember there was a wedding day, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and the bride was like super stressed. And she was supposed to read this letter, and we got the mic on her. She read one sentence and she goes, I can't do this. She was just like, and it wasn't because she was just like, I can't do this. And I was in the room and I was like, well, and my wife just goes, that's fine. It's your wedding day. Like, shut me down and just let her do it. And I think it takes a little bit of just realizing who they are in that moment and what's important. So as we're kind of, continuing this conversation, I want to shift there. I know you started your business, just a couple of years ago, but you've been doing this, for another business, for kind of a while. What's maybe one piece of advice or one thing that you wish that you would have known early on that you're really like, doing today that you wish you would have known back then to kind of help some of these people that are just, at the very beginning of their businesses?
Yeah. That is a big question. I still very much feel like I'm in the thick of it right now. Like, I don't know if that feeling ever really goes away where you feel like I've made it. Like, I think that I still feel like I'm in that place of like, I'm just, kind of starting out. So I can kind of speak from that perspective a bit still, but definitely can recognize growth that has happened in the last few years. And I would say that my biggest hurdle when I was wanting to start out was constantly comparing myself, my work, my brand, my, this, that, my prices, all of this to like everybody else. And social media plays a huge role in that. I'm sure all of us can relate to that. Just the constant scroll, picking up, you're constantly comparing yourself. That's like what social media is. It's a beautiful thing in a lot of ways, but sometimes I get really frustrated with it. And yeah, so I think I would go back and tell myself, like, quit comparing. If anything, just maybe stop watching like a lot of wedding videos altogether and just like make what is true to you. Like, don't try to like imitate other people's style. Don't try to imitate different things, because the like best part in a film is when you just build off of like their true, like you're inspired by the couple, basically. Like you're inspired by their vibe and what they give off. Yeah, that's basically it.
That's gold is what that is. Just write that down next to the column of gold nuggets. I'm just saying. Oh man. So I love this conversation. Like, I love watching you in the last year or so, following you, just your work continue to grow. And I'm really excited to share your work with the How to Film Weddings audience. If people were going to, like, they're intrigued, they want to find you, where can they go find you? Where can they follow you on social, and not compare themselves, but just to be inspired?
Sure.
Where can people find you?
Yeah. So I feel like I'm most active on Instagram. I know I just like hated on it a little bit, but we all need it. It's cool. Whatever. We can use it. So I'm most active on there. You can kind of see like most of my up-to-date work on there, at Films by Madeleine. And then my website, filmsbymadeleine.com, and YouTube, those are kind of the main places where you can find me. So
And we'll be sure to link obviously below for you, for people to find you and stuff like that. So what a great conversation. Anything else you'd like to add before we sign off for the day? Nick, Madeleine, anybody have anything? Just final thoughts? Final thoughts.
Also, one thing I would say to myself is to invest in yourself, like to fully believe in yourself and take the time and the money to like invest in yourself. Yeah, I think this past year I spent a lot of time because I had the time. I purchased like Forestry Films profitable filmmaker course. That was a big like learning curve for me in a lot of ways, and a big like investment for myself and my business. Investing in gears and everything, obviously, but like it matters in some areas. So investing in some gear and that is a huge piece of believing in myself, I guess, is just making sure to invest in yourself as well. So
we fully endorse that statement. Fully. Nick, anything else on your end? You want to land the plane?
I don't think I have anything else, Madeleine. It has been great to hang out with you. I appreciate your wisdom that you have shared with us, and hopefully people are taking notes and applying that to their businesses. Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Well, John, it has been a great episode here at How to Film Weddings. Thank you, Madeleine, for joining us. If you are listening to this still, thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate you. We want you to head over to howtofilmweddings.com/store. There you can check out our posing guide. We have this posing guide with over, 20 of our favorite poses. Yeah, 20 of our favorite poses that we have put together that will really help you out on wedding day. I know that we are gearing up again. I know it's in February of 2021, but wedding season will soon start for many of us here in the next few months. And so, go check that out. It's our posing guide over at howtofilmweddings.com/store. John, it has been great to hang out with you. And until next time, everyone, we'll see ya.
See ya. Are you looking for a better way to deliver your wedding films to your couples? Look no further. Our friends over at WedFlow provide the most flexible video delivery solution on the market. WedFlow is pay per project with no large upfront cost or commitment, and you can cancel anytime. Not only that, WedFlow offers a premium viewing experience for your couples, accessible on mobile, tablet, desktop, as well as their very own suite of TV apps. Each project comes with 10 years hosting and an experience for your clients that will blow them away. Stop delivering your films the old-fashioned way and give your couples something to rave about. Head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/WedFlow to check out WedFlow today.